Everyone, my name is Chris Shaw, the Managing Director of Equity Digital. In this short session I'm going to try and give you some information on SEO, some insights that hopefully might help you, your business, your company, but also perhaps a few tips and hints along the way, and the perception of SEO and why the reality might be somewhat different to that which a lot of people think. One of the reasons, in fact, that I've left the picture in the background rather than put up our standard Equity Digital sign is that's a painting by Edgar Degas called Blue Dancers. And Degas was known as an impressionist, but apparently he didn't like that phrase, and he was much preferred people to refer to him as a realist. That's what I'm going to try and be in this video. Because there is a lot of impressions around SEO, but very few people will give you the reality of the situation. So Degas plays a role in this today. We provide SEO services to a range of companies across a very wide range of sectors. And one thing that people will always say to us from the outset is they know it's about keywords. Not incorrect, keywords play a role. But of course today Google, unbeknown to most people, will factor in over 210 different elements into how it ranks your website in its search results. That's a lot of things for anyone to have to take care of, and for us to have to think about for clients. A couple of those which people often miss are the things which people can very easily often address very quickly. One that stems from a very recent conversation with a client is people often just write a website, think that the website company are going to take care of their rankings for them, when there's very often a big difference between web design and SEO, because SEO has become a very complex field. Somebody referred to it recently to me as a black art. I'm not sure if that's a compliment or not, but they're possibly right. But the speed of the loading of your website now has a material effect on the ranking and visibility of websites. It's one of those 210 plus items that Google wants you to pay attention to. Slow loading websites, Google really doesn't like them anymore. Yet people will often, the choice of web host is often given very little consideration, but it really matters nowadays. And another one that this same client actually had addressed was if you were the owners of widgets.com and you'd been in business for 3 years. The age of your domain name, widgets.com, is another factor. Google wants to know how long you've been around. Now, there's not a great deal you can do about that. You have been around for as long as you have been around. But what you can do something about is how long you think you're going to be around for. So when a domain becomes time to renew that domain, classically, businesses will renew for 12 months, maybe 2 years. Renew for 10 years, which you can do on many domains, and you'll be surprised of the impact that Google that can have on your Google rankings. Google likes to think that you think you're going to be around for a lot longer. And all these small points are what add up to that myriad of factors that can help websites with their rankings. But one thing that is a much more holistic point is if you engage an SEO company to help you rank higher on Google, the first thing that realistically that they're going to need to start doing is looking at the foundation of your website, how it is written, what architecture is it based on, because it really doesn't matter how your website looks. How it is written is going to have a material effect on whether SEO work that they do for you is going to work well, or work fantastically. The same work on a poorly written website, the first thing that they should be telling you is you need to rectify these problems first. But the same work on a poorly written website will have a negligible impact on its rankings as opposed to the same work on a very well written website. Google likes structure. It likes to see the code written in a very particular way. And it also changes the goalposts frequently, unfortunately, for people like us. As recently as 6 weeks ago, Google released an update. This update is how it ranks websites. And it called it, rather unhelpfully, it called it the Helpful Content Update. Now, this information, by the way, is publicly available to view. So if you were to Google Helpful Content Update, you will find what I'm about to tell you about. So it has changed the way in which it views websites, in that it now fundamentally looks for helpful content. That could be answers to questions that a searcher might ask. It doesn't want people now to write their website content thinking about search engines, i.e. when you publish something on your website, it doesn't want you to be thinking, oh, how many times do I need to say widgets? How many times do I need to say X, Y, and Z? They still matter. It's all about balance. But it's putting a lot more emphasis now on, is your content relevant to what the user is searching for? Will it answer a very specific question that they have? In the list of points that Google asks people to read through and says, if you can answer yes to any of these points, you may need to revisit how your content is structured and written. One of the points is, are you answering the same question that other websites answer, just in summary format? In other words, it's looking for detail. It's looking for non-plagiarized content. It wants to see that you are genuinely trying to help the reader. It's also looking for what it calls non-automated content. Now, lots of websites might contain a news feed, and those news feeds are often, obviously, by virtue of how I've just described them, they are fed into your website from somewhere else. It's going to start, or it has started, considering that type of content as not as helpful, because it doesn't view that you've put a great deal of time and effort into answering a very specific question that somebody might have asked. None of which helps you, because not everybody has all the time in the day to curate completely new, refreshed content for websites. But the point is that there is a much greater emphasis now on Google seeing that website authors, owners, businesses present information that will solve a problem for somebody. They actually use the term that the person will leave the website feeling as if they have genuinely gained something they might not have got elsewhere. Now, of course, Google tracks visitors as well. So if it sees that somebody has visited your website and then left your website and then visited another website, perhaps for the same search term, spent longer on that website, perhaps gaining clearer, a more concise answer to the question they were asking, that is not going to work well for your website. So it's now actively looking at this range of factors. You may have also heard the term backlinks. Google really values the links that are in your website. That could be from your main menu to the widgets section of your website. We don't own the domain widgets.com, by the way, just in case you're wondering why I'm mentioning that all the time. It's just a nice, easy point of reference. It wants to see that widgets on your main menu goes to a page about widgets. But also it wants to see that the widgets page of your website can be accessed from other parts of your website. It wants to see different ways of getting to the same content. It likes internal links. Now, equally and more valuably, it also likes to see links coming into your website from the outside world. It could be from yell.com, a directory elsewhere, somebody's blog linking to one of your products or linking to your service and saying what a great job these people do. Unfortunately, this is where there's a great deal of misunderstanding, because links into your website aren't always good. In fact, they are very often bad. Because Google looks for spurious links that come from spam-related websites where people just sign up to them to get a link from that website because they've heard from a friend of a friend that will help their website ranking. unfortunately not always the case. It's a lot more complex than that now. Yes, backlinks matter, but backlinks from relevant website is where the real value comes. So be very, very wary when those emails drop into your mailbox and say, we will give you 10,000 backlinks. Equally, just as I'm sure you've all seen, you probably had one in the last week when you receive an email from somebody saying that they will get you to number one on Google within 6 months. You probably have, and you should continue to run a mile, because nobody can give you promises. If there's anything to remember in the field of SEO, and when you're dealing with anybody in SEO, people can give you guidance, they can give you information that tells you what the likely impact of something is being, but what they can never give you is promises. And there's one key reason behind that. We could assess your website, we could do a full audit of it, we could give you full analysis of your website, and we can look at your competitor websites as well and tell you how you fare against those, where they are weak, where you are strong. But as any of our clients will tell you, what we don't know is what your clients are going to do, your competitors are going to do tomorrow. And that's a critical missing link. The need to be aware on an almost daily basis, what are the competition doing? How can you adapt your strategy to counter what they are doing and stay that step ahead? Which is very, very difficult. It's one of our core challenges, to be perfectly honest with you. So we will typically assess competitor websites of a client, let them know what that competitor is doing activity-wise, how they should counter it. And you need to be aware of that. Because people will say, well, as long as I look after my own market stall, everything else will take care of itself. Unfortunately, not always the case. Because if your competitors get that one step ahead of you in terms of their activity levels, the technical structure of their website, they begin to publish more valuable content, which Google finds, referring to my earlier point, more helpful, then ultimately they can pass you. And nowadays it doesn't take quite as long as for people to pass competitors as is often thought to be the case, particularly if your website has things that Google will penalise you for. And that brings me on to this next point. I've spoken about the things that Google will give you ranking benefits for so far. Unfortunately, Google will also give you ranking penalties. In other words, things on your website that aren't what it wants or expects to find, and therefore will penalise you for. One of which is the good old page not found. Let's imagine that you have an e-commerce website or you're selling services online, and you remove one of those services or products after 18 months. You no longer offer it. It wasn't profitable. If Google still has those links out there in its systems, and people click on those links, and it then finds, well, that's a page not found, that page is no longer there, it really does not like that. You will get away with one or two. It will give you warnings for them. But you won't get away with many, after which it begins to penalise you. Just as it does, or just as it does not like to see, it likes page descriptions and titles to be a particular length. It doesn't have a preferred word count on a page. Lots of people think it does. It doesn't. But what it certainly doesn't like is what it calls thin content, pages with not a lot of content on them. And it doesn't like duplicate content. If it sees that you are just trying to publish the same old thing, regurgitating, saving time over and over again, you will receive duplicate content warnings. Well, you won't receive them, of course, and that's part of the problem. You will never know about it. You will just think, why on earth are we dropping in the rankings when we've been publishing new content? It could be because the mistakes and problems with your website outstrip the rate at which you are adding new content. So as I think I mentioned at the beginning of this, over 210 different factors that affect your website visibility. Becoming increasingly more complex, and another thing coming into the equation, which is what I'm going to leave you with now. People think that everybody searches the internet through written word. That is changing, and it's something that we have been trying to adapt to for the last 18 months, 2 years now. Believe it or not, approximately 70% of all searches in the United Kingdom, and this is accurate as at the end of September, were voice searches. It's you at home with your Alexa device. It's in your car. It's on your Apple phone with Siri. It's even on a wearable such as an Apple Watch, again with Siri. A lot of those are, where's my local pizza shop? I know. But they might equally be, where is the best place for me to buy widgets? So websites now are having to factor in voice search. How do we rank highly in voice search? How do we get seen at all in voice search? And bear in mind, Google Home voice, Apple Siri, Alexa, they're all different algorithms, different ways of promoting the services they want to be found. So voice search and wearables is the next big challenge for companies such as ourselves. It is an area in which we would have to tell people that we would have to lie to clients, quite frankly, to say this is easy. It isn't easy. As with everything, this field is changing at an increasingly rapid rate. Where you get the benefit from it is being up to date with the recent changes and the changes that are coming, and being able to adapt to them quickly, and not believing the classic white lies and Chinese whispers that exist out there and have been out there for 10 years. SEO is far more than just keywords, and that list of 210 plus items is getting longer, but ultimately it is the long-term method by which you can secure traffic. PPC, pay-per-click, getting your brand out there quickly, paying for Google to show your search results in an advert will bring you traffic, but you'll pay for every single click. SEO gives you that long-term assurance, that longevity. It's an investment, it's a monthly investment, but it's very much that way of making sure that you're not paying for every single click. If you want 1,000 clicks on your website through PPC, you pay for 1,000 clicks. If you get 1,000 clicks on your website through SEO, you won't pay for 1,000 clicks. You will have paid because your website is featured there organically. And that is me giving you the realistic view, as I mentioned about Edgar Degas painting at the start of this, and maybe dispelling some myths. Maybe it is a black art, but not everything out there that's said about SEO is true, and unfortunately that's why it's an area that has a very, very bad name for itself, because people make you promises that they simply cannot keep. So hopefully I've been able to give you some hints and tips there about things that you might want to think about when you're considering what to change on your website and how to move your website forward. But at least try to keep it entertaining and not the boring subject that SEO is often referred to. So I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you very much for your time.